Imagine walking into like a multi-million-dollar commercial gym today.
Oh, yeah. Wall-to-wall chrome.
Exactly. You walk past these endless rows of highly engineered, perfectly calibrated machinery. You want to work your quads, so you sit in a padded chair, buckle in, and just push a lever along a guided track.
Right, the machine does all the stabilizing for you.
Yeah, exactly. It does all the hard work. But I mean, what if I told you that bypassing all that million-dollar tech for a single oddly shaped iron cannonball with a thick handle might actually be, well, vastly superior for training your body's raw mechanics?
It's a pretty jarring contrast, honestly. I mean,
Mm.
people love the machines because the progress is just so strictly categorized.
Totally.
But the moment you pick up a kettlebell, you are entering the diagnostic muddy waters of free weight movement. You can't just sit there and push.
No, you really can't.
You are forced to actively understand how your entire body moves through three-dimensional space,
Uh-huh.
all while managing this constantly shifting center of gravity.
And unlocking that understanding is our mission today. Welcome to this deep dive, everyone. We are taking a masterclass on demystifying one of the most efficient yet, I think, intimidating pieces of equipment in the fitness world.
Intimidating is definitely the right word for it.
Right. We're pulling our insights from a really brilliant breakdown by Coach John Wolf over on the On It YouTube channel, where he maps out 10 foundational beginner kettlebell exercises.
And, calling them just exercises almost does the material a disservice.
Oh, how so?
Well, what Coach Wolf is really providing here is a full biomechanical blueprint for human movement.
Yeah, which is exactly why you should care about this. Whether you are actively prepping for a new fitness journey or you're just insanely curious about the physics of human body mechanics, this deep dive is going to show you how a single piece of equipment trains the entire body.
Assuming you understand the underlying physics, of course.
Right, big caveat there. Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start from the ground up. I mean, you can't just grab a 35-pound iron ball and start swinging it wildly if you don't even know how to anchor your body to the floor.
Oh, absolutely not. The foundation has to be built first. Everything begins with the lower body engine.
Right.
And the source material kicks off this whole blueprint with the kettlebell deadlift.
Yeah.
Now, anyone who has spent time in a gym knows what a deadlift is, right?
Yeah, picking a heavy weight off the floor.
Exactly. But the mechanics change significantly when you transition from, like, a long standard barbell to a compact kettlebell.
I know a lot of people hear the word deadlift and they immediately picture, competitive powerlifters chalking up their hands and screaming.
Right, the intense hype.
Yeah. But stripped down to its core, it's really just learning how to properly pick something heavy off the ground safely. Think of it this way. It's like trying to shut a heavy car door with your butt when your hands are full of groceries.
That is a remarkably accurate way to visualize it.
Right. You have to push your hips far back while keeping your back relatively straight.
Yeah, that's the mechanics of a hip hinge in a nutshell. With a barbell, the weight sits out in front of your shins, so it's constantly trying to pull you forward.
Right.
But a kettlebell sits directly underneath your center of mass, right between the arches of your feet. This allows you to practice a really pure vertical deadlift.
And the setup, Coach Wolf describes leverages that perfectly. You stand with your feet about shoulder width apart, basically straddling the bell,
Right.
and you keep a long spine from the crown of your head all the way down to your tailbone. And here is the physical cue that really brings it together for me.
Yeah.
As you reach down to grasp the handle with both hands, you drive your shoulders down and back as if you are stuffing your shoulder blades into your back pocket.
I love that cue.
Me too. He pairs that with keeping a proud chest, so the logo on your t-shirt is visible to anyone standing in front of you.
What's fascinating here is how those really subtle cues completely change the physics of the lift.
How so?
Well, by pulling your shoulders down and keeping your spine totally rigid, you are essentially turning your entire torso into a solid, unbreakable lever.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, your lower back is no longer a vulnerable hinge that can, bend and snap under pressure. It's locked in place.
So by locking the spine, we're basically forcing the muscles below the waist to do all the actual work.
Precisely. You are shifting the entire load onto the posterior chain.
Which is really just a catch-all term for that massive network of muscles down the back of your body, right?
Exactly. Primarily the glutes and the hamstrings. So when you drive your heels into the floor and extend your hips to stand tall, those massive muscle groups fire simultaneously.
Right.
You're basically building a neurological pathway that says, hey, this is how we lift heavy things without breaking our spine.
And once you establish that solid, reliable hinge mechanism, you can evolve it into something incredibly dynamic.
Yes.
Like we move from the static deadlift into the kettlebell chest swing. We're taking that exact same hip hinge, but now we are introducing momentum and velocity.
Yeah, for this one, you're grabbing the kettlebell by its horns.
The vertical sides of the handle, right.
Exactly. And you're pulling the bottom of the bell right into your abdomen, resting just below your sternum. The stance is similar to the deadlift, but the tension is entirely different.
Yeah, I noticed the visual focus shifts here too. Like you don't look down at the floor between your feet anymore.
Right, you shouldn't.
You cast your eyes on a spot on the floor approximately 15 feet in front of you that keeps your cervical spine, your neck, perfectly aligned with the rest of your back.
Yeah.
You take a deep breath, brace your core like you're about to take a punch, and you tilt your tailbone upward slightly.
And by tilting that tailbone upward, you're preloading the tension in your hamstrings. You are creating a high hip hinge.
Gotcha.
So you pull your hips straight back to the wall behind you, keeping the kettlebell literally glued to your chest. And the moment you feel that deep rubber band stretch in the back of your legs,
that stretch reflex becomes your trigger. You exhale, violently push your feet down into the floor, thrust your hips forward, and aggressively squeeze your glutes.
right,
And that glute squeeze actually tucks your tailbone under naturally as you lock out at the top of the movement. It is just pure explosive power generation.
it really is.
But then, right after establishing this explosive hinging motion, the routine shifts to the kettlebell goblet squat. And I have to admit, looking at the biomechanics here, I had a moment of confusion.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wait, how is a squat fundamentally different from the hinge we just did? Aren't we just like bending our legs and lowering our hooks again?
It is the absolute most common point of confusion for beginners, but the structural difference is massive.
Okay, lay it on me.
So the deadlift and the chest swing are all about sitting back. You're pushing your hips horizontally behind you to maximize the stretch in the hamstrings while keeping your shins relatively vertical.
Right, sitting back.
But the squat, however, is about sitting down.
Sitting straight down with a vertical, upright torso, meaning the knees actually have to travel forward.
Yes, and because you are dropping your center of mass vertically rather than horizontally, you are changing the entire lever system of the legs.
Okay.
Getting low and deep into the hips takes the primary mechanical load off the hamstrings on the back of the leg and shifts it almost entirely to the quadriceps on the front of your thighs.
The setup for the feet is a fantastic lesson in generating torque, too. You stand a bit wider than hip width with your toes turned out slightly.
Yeah.
But then the coach says, take a deep breath and imagine screwing your feet into the floor without actually shifting their physical position.
Right, that's crucial.
You just twist them outward into the ground. But why does just imagining twisting your feet make the squat suddenly feel so much sturdier?
Because that twisting motion isn't just imaginary, it physically engages the gluteus medius, which is a key muscle on the outside of your hip.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, by actively trying to rotate your seat outward against the friction on the floor, you create rotational torque up the entire leg chain. It forces your knees to track outward over your toes, which prevents them from dangerously caving inward when you drop down into the squat.
It essentially turns your legs into tightly coiled springs.
Exactly.
From there, you drop down as low as your mobility allows without letting your tailbone round under your body. A flaw commonly called the butt wink.
Yeah, avoid the butt wings.
And then you exhale to stand tall. It's an incredibly powerful sequence. So, okay, we've built this massive lower body engine. We know how to sit back, we know how to sit down, and we understand the physics of rooting ourselves to the earth with torque.
A great start.
But a workout isn't complete if we just focus on the legs. We have to take all that grounded stability and flip the script to upper body power.
Right. We transition from generating force from the ground up to using that solid foundation to move the weight toward and away from our torso.
Okay.
And this starts with the pulling musculature in the kettlebell split stance row.
This setup is all about creating a structural tripod. Let's say your right foot is planted flat just outside the kettlebell on the floor.
Yeah.
You dig the ball of your left foot into the floor far behind you, adopting a staggered stance. You bend at the hip so your torso is at a 45-degree angle to the floor. And to stabilize that spine, you actually rest your right elbow heavily on your right thigh.
You've effectively created an architectural truss out of your own body.
I love that visual.
Right. 2 feet on the floor, one elbow braced on the knee. That base is immovable. Reaching down with your free left hand, you exhale and row the heavy kettlebell straight up to your hip.
The cue here is drawing the shoulder blade back and down
Yeah.
while keeping your shoulders perfectly parallel to the floor. There is zero twisting of the torso here. Like, you aren't starting a lawnmower.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this anti-rotation mechanic is what makes the free weight so much more demanding than a machine.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Think about it. On a seated cable row machine, a padded chest plate stops your torso from rotating.
Oh, that's true.
Here, your core has to fire relentlessly to keep your shoulders square to the floor against the asymmetrical pull of the heavy iron.
Whoa.
You are simultaneously training your lats and rhomboids to pull the weight while training your obliques to resist rotation. It proves you just don't need a massive, complicated apparatus to target the back. Gravity and a stable physical base do the job beautifully.
Which is such an empowering realization. But then we hit the next progression, and I really had to do a double take at the terminology.
The cheat clean.
Yes, the kettlebell cheat. Hold on, cheat clean. Like, if I'm a beginner and I am trying to learn proper fitness mechanics, why is the expert coach explicitly telling me to cheat?
I know it sounds totally counterintuitive. Coach Wolf even jokes about it in the masterclass, noting that if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough.
Right.
But the name is a bit of a misnomer, honestly. It's not cheating in the sense of taking a dangerous shortcut. It is actually a highly strategic regression to protect the learner.
Okay, let's define the endpoint first. A clean picks is the process of explosively moving the weight from the floor up to shoulder level into what is called the rack position.
And that rack position is incredibly nuanced with a kettlebell. Unlike a dumbbell, the bell's center of mass hangs below the handle.
Right.
So when it sits in the rack position, the heavy iron sphere has to rest smoothly in the V shape formed by your forearm and your bicep.
But getting it there smoothly is the hard part, right? Because if a beginner just grabs the handle with one hand and yanks it upward, well, that heavy iron ball is going to flip over the hand and violently smash into the back of their forearm.
Exactly. That bone-bruising impact is exactly why so many people quit kettlebells on day one.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
So the cheat clean solves this by turning it into a guided two-handed movement. You set up just like the deadlift we discussed earlier, but you grasp the handle with your right hand over your left hand.
Ah, okay. So as you drive your heels into the floor and explode upward, you don't just muscle it with the left arm. You literally use that right hand to act as a physical guide, kind of steering the momentum of the bell so it softly wraps around your left wrist and settles perfectly into that pocket at the shoulder.
Yeah, you are bypassing the complex, one-handed timing of the flip and safely teaching your nervous system what the final comfortable rack position should actually feel like.
Because once that kettlebell is resting securely in that rack position at shoulder level, it is time to push.
Time to press.
Right, which brings us to the strict press. And I love that the source provides two distinct paths for pressing, depending entirely on your shoulder mobility.
The strict press is really the ultimate test of vertical force. You take all that rooting, torque, and core bracing we learned from the ground up, and you use it to anchor a heavyweight moving directly over your head.
So you're standing tall, the weight in one hand in the rack position, and the cue here is fantastic. You root your feet into the floor as if you were preparing for someone to push you.
Yep, get braced.
You brace that core, physically pull your rib cage down, and exhale as you press the weight overhead. But Coach Wolf notes that because of how the kettlebell rests asymmetrically on your forearm, the press is going to feel like an around-the-world motion.
Yeah, it's not a perfectly straight line.
Your elbow naturally flares out and moves away from your side as the weight travels up.
And a very critical, yet easily forgotten detail here, you have to actively pull your chin back as you press, so the iron doesn't clip your face on the way up.
Very important spatial awareness. I don't want a broken nose.
No, definitely not.
But the second half of the movement is just as active. Like, you don't just relax your muscles and let gravity drop the weight back to your shoulder. You pull it back down into the rack position as if you were performing a heavy pull-up. You are actively engaging the lats on the way down.
It turns a simple upward push into a fully engaged, continuous cycle of muscular tension.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The coach fully anticipates a very common roadblock for you, the listener.
Oh yeah, the desk worker problem.
Exactly. What if your shoulders are glued shut from sitting at a desk all day? What if you literally do not have the overhead mobility to safely press a heavy weight straight up without severely arching your lower back or causing sharp joint pain?
Then we pivot to the kettlebell floor press.
Hmm.
It is the perfect horizontal alternative that provides all the chest and triceps development without demanding vertical shoulder mobility.
Okay, so you lie flat on your back on the floor, knees bent, feet planted firmly, actively flattening your lower back into the ground to protect the spine.
Good base?
You hold the kettlebell in the rack position, but now you're lying down. You position your free arm out to the side at a 45-degree angle and drive that elbow straight into the floor for stability.
You're replicating the exact same rooted foundation we built while standing, but now you are utilizing the solid, unyielding surface of the floor as your ultimate back brace.
You press the weight straight up toward the ceiling, just like a bench press. But wait, as you lower the kettlebell back down, the source gives a very specific warning. You are supposed to lower it until your triceps gently touch the floor, but you must not let your elbow crash down. By touching the triceps but keeping the elbow slightly off the floor, are we basically turning our arm into a loaded spring? It sounds like you're never actually letting the muscle relax.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. Because if you let the point of the elbow physically crash into the ground, two bad things happen.
Okay.
First, you risk jarring the elbow joint against a hard surface, which hurts. Second, the floor absorbs the weight, meaning your chest and triceps get to completely relax.
Right, losing the tension.
Yeah, by gently touching only the soft tissue of the triceps to the floor and pausing, you maintain constant time under tension.
Meaning the muscle is forced to remain fully contracted and working, even at the bottom of the movement.
Yes, you are controlling the descent completely, maintaining a loaded spring of muscular energy. This results in a much more explosive and stable lockout when you press it back toward the ceiling.
It's brilliantly methodical. Okay, so we've mastered the static lower body engine, we've moved the bell upward, we've rode it toward us, and we've pressed it away.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Now, the routine makes a fascinating biomechanical shift. We abandon moving the weight in straight lines, up, down, forward, back, and we start moving it around the perimeter of the body. We are entering the realm of intense core stabilization.
This is the dynamic stability phase where rotational physics come into play.
For these next few exercises, I want you to visualize a specific scenario. Imagine your torso is the sun, completely stationary, intensely rooted to the ground.
I like this.
The heavy kettlebell is a dense iron planet. Your objective is to keep that planet in a perfect, tightly controlled orbit around you without ever letting its centrifugal force pull your spine off its axis.
That celestial framing is the perfect way to understand the forces at work during the kettlebell halo.
Okay, so you stand firmly rooted, feet screwed into the floor, ribs tucked down. You hold the kettlebell by the horns right in front of your face, but you hold it upside down. The heavy bottom of the bell is facing the ceiling.
Right. And while keeping your core intensely clamped down, you move that kettlebell slowly in a tight, full circle around your head, just sort of grazing the neckline of your shirt.
The source material literally says to move slowly to avoid whacking yourself in the head.
Yeah, highly practical advice.
For sure. But mechanically, what is the core actually doing while the weight orbits the head?
Well, your core is acting as an anti-rotation and anti-extension system.
Oh, I see.
When a 35-pound weight passes behind your head, the torque wants to force your lower back to arch violently backward. To prevent that, your deep transverse abdominis has to fire like a corset.
Wow.
As the weight moves to the side of your head, it tries to bend your spine laterally. So your obliques instantly fire to counteract that pull. You are resisting gravity from 360 different degrees sequentially, all without visibly moving your torso.
And we take that exact same concept of resisting torque and move it down to the body's center of mass for the around the hip pass, or as Coach Wolf calls it, the hip halo.
Yeah, instead of holding the weight upside down at eye level, you are now holding it by the top handle in a hang position down near your waist. You simply pass it from your right hand to your left hand in a continuous smooth circle around your hips.
It sounds so deceptively simple. If you watch someone do it, it looks like a playground game. But the physical benefits behind the scenes are wild.
Because the heavy iron is hanging straight down, gravity is actively pulling your shoulders away from your ears.
Right.
This brilliantly loads up and stretches out your trapezius muscles, the muscles connecting your neck to your shoulders, which carries so much tension for most people.
And the dynamic stability challenge is even greater here. As the heavy bell swings around your back, your center of mass shifts dramatically from your toes to your heels and from the left foot to the right foot.
Yes, constantly shifting.
Yet your feet have to stay perfectly, immovably rooted to the floor. Your brain has to constantly calculate how to subtly shift your internal weight to prevent you from toppling over.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the grand finale of this biomechanical blueprint.
The kettlebell figure eight.
Yeah. You start with the bell on the floor. You lift it, pass it backward between your legs to your right hand, sweep it around the outside of your right leg to the front, pass it back through your legs to your left hand, and just keep that continuous weaving figure eight motion going.
This raises an important question, though. When you watch this movement on video, it looks entirely like an upper body coordination and dexterity drill. You're just rhythmically passing a weight from hand to hand between your knees.
Right, that's what it looks like.
So why does the source promise that this specific exercise is going to absolutely set your thighs on fire?
Because to successfully weave that bell through your legs, you are forced to sink down into a low isometric squat, and you have to stay there.
An isometric hold, meaning the muscle is under tension without actually lengthening or contracting. You're just frozen in a flexed position.
Exactly. You have to keep your knees deeply bent and your hips low to create enough clearance to pass the bell through.
Ah, I get it.
Unlike a standard squat where you get to stand up, lock out, and briefly rest your muscles at the top, the figure eight offers zero release. You're trapping your quadriceps and glutes in a state of constant burning tension for the entire duration of the set.
It acts as the ultimate full-body bridge. You are combining the complex, shifting upper body coordination of the passes with the relentless lactic acid-building lower body endurance of the squat. You're training the mind and the musculature simultaneously.
It forces total system integration. Your upper body and lower body have to communicate perfectly to maintain balance.
It's an incredible evolution. So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Well, a lot, hopefully.
Right. We've just dissected 10 foundational exercises from Coach Worf's masterclass. By learning to master just this one primitive piece of cast iron, you now possess the biomechanical blueprint to hinge at the hips, to squat with torque, to pull with stability, to press vertically and horizontally, and to dynamically stabilize your spine against 360 degrees of rotational force.
It radically reframes how we should think about fitness programming.
Yeah.
You truly do not need a room full of expensive, highly engineered machinery to get a comprehensive, functional workout.
Not at all.
You just need a single weight and the knowledge of how your body leverages gravity.
You become the machine.
You do. And I'll leave you with this provocative thought to consider moving forward.
Okay.
If a single, oddly shaped cannonball with a handle can safely and effectively train every major movement pattern your body was designed to perform, well, how much of the complex, highly specific, isolating gym machinery we rely on today is actually just an illusion of progress?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? We crave the clean, comfortable precision of the guided machines, but maybe the murky, demanding, three-dimensional mechanics of the free weight are exactly what the human body actually requires to thrive.
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the tools you use, keep learning about the incredible physics of how your body moves through space, and hey, maybe try screwing your feet into the floor the next time you stand up from your chair. Catch you next time.